Hey, JCT drivers, Danny Christner here along with Jake Lateras, and we're just coming to you again like we talked about with a little podcast edition to talk about some of the current issues. We're just about to get into May. We're doing this recording today on Thursday, April 29th. And as you know, May going into Memorial Day kind of signifies the start of the summer season, and being a refrigerated carrier that runs a lot of California, that's really definitely our busy time of the year. So I think right now, one of the things that I'm most excited about is our 5-cent retention bonus. We started April 1st, and as a lot of you have already seen, let's say you've ran, close to 10,000 miles this month. I mean, that's going to be $500 extra that you're going to get at the end of June, for just basically being employed for the rest of this second quarter. And, we're seeing opportunities to push rates up with customers. We know that the spot markets and some of the other markets are being very active right now, and that always happens in the West Coast this time of year. But we think we're really well positioned to take advantage of some of that, and we're going to pass that on to you, the driver. This is the first step. This quarter is that 5-cent retention bonus. And, do the math on that. If it's $500 in April or more, it could be the same or more in May and also in June. So, pretty soon you're talking about a $1,500 to $1,700 or $1,800 bonus pay just for staying employed here at JCT and running those miles. And teams are, do the math on that. I mean, what a team can run per week, 5,000-6,000 miles. So it's real money, and we're excited about paying that out. And, that's one of the things that I've really worked on is to try to look at, as the markets change, go up or go down, we have this fixed mileage program, which I really think is, it's attractive to a lot of drivers. Obviously, the 700 plus operators we have here like the way the program's set up. It insulates you from areas where freight doesn't pay as well, or deadhead miles, or inactivity, and really it puts the onus back on us here in operations to make sure that we're keeping you productive, keeping you loaded, and we've got to be active with our customers to make sure that we're pricing our freight right. And over the last few years, it's been such volatility, from e-logs back in 17, 18 to COVID last year, which we've survived, knock on wood. And now you get into 2021, and with the weather event in Texas and other things, I don't know, it feels like we haven't hardly had a chance to catch our breath. But what we have done is, through all this, is the JCT brand has emerged as solid, or as secure, and as prominent and as meaningful as it ever was. And not just out on the road amongst drivers, but with the shipping industry and our customer base. We were just recognized again by Walmart as their carrier of the year, and there'll be some collateral coming out about that. We've been recognized by several other customers for our excellent service and customer relations, and that starts with you, the drivers out there that are doing your jobs every day, making sure we're picking up and delivering on time. And so, trucking isn't easy. I mean, let's face it, it can be very challenging. You're dealing with things out on the road, traffic, weather, breakdowns sometimes. You don't always get treated as well as you should at certain shippers or receivers. And then on top of that, you've got things going on at home, things in your personal life. So I get it. John was a truck driver when we were growing up, and I can remember at times that him being gone for weeks and months at a time. So I understand how that sacrifice is, but one thing we want to make sure is that if you're going to make that sacrifice and commit to coming to John Christner Trucking, then we want to support you, and we want to be here for you and try to make you successful and do everything in our power to improve our program, improve working conditions, improve treatment, and continue to flow money back to the drivers in the form of just like this retention bonus. I'm anticipating that gets extended into the third quarter. Who knows? It may even increase. I can't promise right now because we're still trying to navigate some bids and some repricing with some customers. But if we can continue to move rates up, then we're going to pass that money back on to you, because you're the ones that really deserve it. And I just can't tell you how good it feels to be able to go out and use our capacity to leverage loads and the lanes and the terms that we need with customers, and then to pass it on back to the driver, because our program is an all-inclusive program, as you know. You get paid your base rate per mile, you get paid your fuel surcharge, and you get that paid on all miles, not just loaded miles, but empty miles. So when you think about, empty miles and getting paid loaded and fuel surcharge on that, you're actually making money on those moves when you're empty. You know what kind of fuel mileage you get empty, and a lot of our loaded miles are with heavy loads, and you're almost payloaded out. But we think our fuel surcharge program compensates well for that. And in a climate where we've seen fuel prices go up, there's two kind of protections there for you. One, our sliding scale, which increases the amount you're paid per mile. And then, like I just referenced, you're getting paid on loaded and empty miles. So, guys that are out there working on different arrangements, whether it be percentage or they're getting a certain amount of loaded per mile, but they're not getting anything empty. Well, guess what? That increased fuel costs cost more per mile for them. So we find that when fuel prices go up, our program is actually more beneficial to the driver because it insulates them from, one, the rising price at the gallon, and then two, the empty miles. So really what it boils down to is if you control your idle time, your out or out miles, and your driving MPG, you can actually make money on our fuel surcharge here. And that's another part of, an inherent part of our program that we think is beneficial. So yeah, a lot of great things going on. I mean, demand is strong. Our lanes and our activity is robust. It's not going to change. It's only going to get bigger. We've got a new initiative here in operations to load as many JCT trucks as we can to California during the second and third quarter. So you're going to be seeing, a lot of you are already seeing that. There's guys on set runs or dedicated situations that are running back and forth from California to Florida, Texas, Oklahoma, Missouri, Arkansas. We're going to continue to expand those as we put more JCT trucks out in California. Then that's going to allow us to align with our good customers to load us right back into the areas where we can turn around and send you right back to California. I think most of you probably, one of the reasons you come here, the equipment, the reputation and the brand and the company, and then the long miles, the extended transits. Our average length of haul is almost 1,500 miles or more, which signifies how much we go to the West Coast and back. And most drivers that if they're going to be gone over the road and be out for multiple weeks at a time, then let's get out and run those long miles, in areas that it's easy to do. If you get stuck in sometimes in metropolitan areas where you're doing short loads or multiple stops and picks, you just can't get the same mileage productivity that you can here. So I think, with the programs we've got, this retention bonus, there also is the 2-cent safety bonus that, can be paid on top of that if you meet all those requirements. But the 5-cent retention bonus is just purely about being employed here, purely about running those miles. It's going to be paid out after the end of the second quarter. And I know there's going to be people walking around with $1,500, $1,800, teams with $3,000 in their pocket. And like I said, the probability of doing that for the third quarter is very high, and we may even see an increase in that. So there's just a lot of great things, a lot of things to be excited about here. In addition to, the ongoing challenges that come with trucking and everything that's going on, we're tapering off the end of the COVID situation, hopefully. Things are starting to open back up. I hope you're seeing more access to services and facilities and resources out there on the road, because I know that's been tough. And we've seen a lot of ingenuity and a lot of resiliency from the driving force, and it's really remarkable, and it makes me proud and excited to be a part of what this company and where our position is in the industry. And I really believe that our best times are now and ahead of us, and we've endured through difficult times, and we're really well positioned to take advantage of this. So yeah, it's just a really exciting time, and I know Jake's got a few things to add as well, and so I'll kind of turn over to him and let him give you some updates.
Yeah, well, and one thing I wanted to kind of, it's even something that I'll kind of ask Danny here, but I don't know how much you're able to pay attention to maybe some of the market dynamics that we look at here internally from an ops standpoint and kind of the things that we're weighing, but it's funny. I think I've been in trucking 6 going on 7 years, about 5.5 of them at JCT, and I think 3 of the craziest markets we've ever seen have all happened in my short time in trucking, and it's been much crazier than you probably you spent majority of your whole life in trucking.
Absolutely.
And
I've been in 30 plus years, and you're right, Jake. The last 3 to 4 years have been the most volatile, the most challenging, and the most difficult to solve that I've seen in my entire career.
So if you're feeling that things are kind of crazier than ever out there as a driver, then you're right, because over the last several years, as Danny just said, it's been pretty tough to imagine kind of all the things that you're having to deal with. It's just, and even I was reading recently as you were talking about fuel there, I know fuel prices are going to continue to go up. I think Goldman Sachs was just saying today that they're speculating $80 a barrel.
Yeah.
So that's going to drive fuel prices up. And then I was reading, they could expect a shortage of, drivers taking fuel to the fuel stations and how that could affect in the summer with increased travel that comes in the summer from individuals maybe going on vacation, but also trucking picking up and produce season coming on in California. The demand that's going to be there is going to be up while already the supply is struggling, and there's not enough drivers there either.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And we're seeing it on some components and some parts shortages, and I won't go into all the detail on that because we've just seen it. It's been isolated so far, but we're keeping a close eye on that with our OEMs, with Kenworth and Freightliner, to make sure that we have parts availability, that we're at the front of the line on that. Because I'll be honest, I mean they're experiencing components. First we heard about all the microchips and the processors that are short, but there's also clutch assemblies. There's some different types of wiring harnesses and components. So it's hard enough when a driver experiences a breakdown and there may be a backup at the shop, and then we have to overnight a part in. When that part's not even available, and there's no, a shortage of technicians at these locations, it really makes it more extremely challenging. But what we're going to do is, you have our guarantee that if we get into a situation like that where you're going to get stuck or stranded and there's no parts available, we're going to come get your vehicle. We're going to figure out a way to get you into a rental. We're going to keep you moving and do everything we can to try to make sure that you've got access to power. That's one of the part of our program, the provision of rental trucks, which I know is something that some programs don't offer. And we believe firmly in that our drivers should not bear the brunt of the shortage. Now, are we all going to be exposed to this in a way? Yeah, absolutely we are. I mean, we can't snap our fingers. We don't have a magic fix to create a part that doesn't exist. But what we are going to do is, you have our commitment that we're going to do everything we can to try to make sure that we're urgently trying to solve the situation.
Well, and as you mentioned, just having access to the parts, whether you're aware or not, all the ports are seeing massive import volumes as high as they've ever been, and backups at the ports are pretty insane because of labor situations, but then also just having the supply chain there to take those products, maybe some of them parts or whatever it may be, to get it delivered.
That's it. American companies are short-staffed and not being able to meet their normal quotas of production. And then let's say someone shifts and says, well, I'm going to go outside the U.S. and buy this component or this part. Now they're having trouble getting it through the ports because of the backlog that you just referenced, Jake.
Yeah, and one of the other things I wanted to mention kind of on this maintenance topic was trailer maintenance. It's something that comes up, I wouldn't say in the top maybe 5 as far as in the surveys, but it comes up enough to where we've gained we notice it. We notice that you guys are putting that in there. And as we do everything that we can from our standpoint to help you guys out there on the road, whether it's increasing pay or other programs to get you guys more money, what I would ask, if you see a trailer out there that is in need of repair or it's yours, please don't drop it and leave it for the next guy to take care of. And that's the responses that we see in the survey tend to be, the driver before me who had this trailer didn't report it, and so now I'm having to deal with it. So, we're going to do everything we can to take care of those situations as fast as possible. Step one of that is knowing when there's an issue with the trailer as soon as it's noticed, and not leaving it for the next person to deal with. So if you see an issue, please say something. We'll get on it. And that should help also your fellow drivers not have to deal with a situation that you wouldn't want to deal with yourself. So if you could do that from your end, we'll do what we can from our end to take care of it. But if you could help us in those situations as much as possible, that's going to save your fellow driver time that he would spend dealing with that trailer or so.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you mentioned that, Jake. I mean, bottom line is this: we've got to get better at that. And I mean, from myself down and in the operations group and the breakdown and maintenance group, we have a lot of agreements with outside providers that check our trailers at different spot locations. And it's hard, when a driver's under a load and the transits are tight. It may be an item that needs to be fixed, but it's not something that shuts them down, so it gets overlooked. And the driver may think, and dispatch is guilty of this too, where we say, well, go ahead and get the load delivered, then we'll address the issue. And the minute the guy gets the load delivered, guess what? We've got him to go repower another load, or we need him over in another location. So there's a lot of times there are extenuating circumstances. But to your point, as a driver, just let us know what's going on. I mean, when you look at what we spend out on the road for trailer maintenance, it's a big number. So I know we're touching a lot of our trailers. Like I said, we've got agreements in most of our big drop locations with WB and some other suppliers that go in and check our trailers and do maintenance right there at the time when they should be doing the maintenance, when the trailer's not tethered to a tractor and under a load. But you're right. There are times I see it, I hear it from drivers, and trailers become interchangeable. And when you have more trailers than trucks, sometimes they get abused a little bit. And honestly, I mean, having driven myself, I know how it is. If you can drop a problem and pick up a trailer that doesn't have a problem, you can be gone that much quicker. But please, drivers, let us know. We're even, we've got compensation in there for you if you'll help us find the problem, get the problem fixed, and maybe that's just dropping it off at a shop. You don't have to wait for it there, but you help us identify the problem and get it into a shop, or we can locate a mobile vendor that can come and address the situation. We've really got to do that. And as we get into the summer months, when it's going to be even more critical with ambient temperatures going up, that's when we see more tire failures, more trailer and unit failures. It's imperative that we stay on top of that. So, I think it's an issue that we address it. It's not like we're not doing anything, because we're doing plenty, but we can always get better there, and that's what we need to do. And we need you, the driver, to help us there, because I know how frustrating it is when you pick up a trailer and, hey, it may have been the guy before there that dropped it. It may have been the guy or two or three before them. Yeah. And, it may not. It's hard to even say that there's a driver or someone that's ultimately responsible for that problem. They may not be. Yeah. But it is a problem that has to be addressed, so let's all work together to try to solve that.
Yeah, that's one of the advantages of having a bunch of extra trailers is a lot of times you can drop and hook and keep on going, but then the other side of that is it's a lot of trailers to manage, and when little things come up and it hangs a driver up, it's not good for anybody. And
yeah, no doubt. I mean, we have a fairly new trailer fleet. We do have some 2010 model trailers that are going in for trade right now, but those have had new units put on them and some component updates. So the actual box and chassis is a 2010 model, which is now becoming an 11-year-old trailer, but the unit's been replaced, it's been updated. And then when you look at the abundance of our equipment is probably within 3 to 4 years or newer. So it is a good trailer fleet. We just have to work a little harder to make sure we keep it in good condition.
For sure. And then the last thing that I wanted to bring up is, as it relates to the surveys that you guys are filling out and letting us know, we see the call on there for earlier planning and getting pre-plans before you have delivered a load, and that's something that we're focusing on. It's something that we report on internally. Jim Gomez actually tracks that by area and to make sure that we have trucks that are inbound planned up on those loads. So I wanted to let you guys know that we are focusing on that and we'll do even more so, just to make sure. We know that you guys have to deal with a lot out there on the road, and one thing that may be frustrating is waiting. You wait an hour or two to get unloaded, and then you don't have a pre-plan, so you don't know which way to head, where to shut down, where to fuel, all those kind of things. So we're going to focus on that, getting the utilization up and making sure you guys know where to head before, doing the best that we can. And I know it can't happen in every circumstance, but as much as we can, pre-planning before you deliver the load before, so that you know where you're going and can stay hooked up as much as possible.
Yeah, and let me add a little color to that as well. If we were just planning strictly for our fleet and didn't have an overhang of logistics activity, then it might be a little easier to just plan the JCT trucks. If there was one load for every JCT truck, you plan it and it works. But what we're doing is we're trying to overbook in our areas so that the JCT trucks always keep moving. But one of the challenges with that is, so what loads go on JCT and what go on logistics? And sometimes that's determined by the customer. Sometimes that's determined by a rate and the capacity we can find. And sometimes those are last minute decisions. We have everybody planned out. You have a pre-plan in advance. You're good. You know what you're doing. We've got JCT planned on all their loads. We've got our logistics partners planned on their loads. And then something happens. A truck falls out, a breakdown occurs, a load cancels. And so that's when it sets things in motion, that ripple effect where we have to go start replanning. But that doesn't excuse us from trying to plan as far and out in advance as we can. And I promise you that's something that's a priority in operations and dispatch that I've leaned on heavily for years, is to let the drivers know what they're going to do. I mean, the best thing is if a driver knows, when I'm going to an area, I'm going to load back to an area I always go. I mean, he knows that automatically, and that's what we're trying to do in some of these dedicated run situations. But even if it's not for certain where he's going, give him that information in advance. He can start planning his trip, as you referenced. He knows where to fuel, where to park, how to plan his book, and it's just a better way to go. So that's similar to traders. We're trying. Can we get better there? Absolutely. But there are some extenuating circumstances that sometimes cause us to have to make what I say call an audible and make a change. Because at the end of the day, here's the deal. If we can take our fleet and then leverage our fleet and book even more freight, then what that does is that gives us, we can go through and pick out the best lanes for our fleet, the best destinations for you, the driver. We can use logistics capacity to balance our areas. And at the end of the day, I mean, they're good loads. I mean, because I don't think JCT has a lot of bad loads. I mean, there are once in a while you'll get a load that, the transit's too long, or there's more stops than there should be, or something happens. But if you look at the majority of our freight, and I think we ran these numbers the other day, I mean, it was in the mid to upper 90% that had one pick, one drop, long haul freight with direct with customers. That's another thing I heard from a guy the other day that said, man, the thing I like about this company is you don't load with a lot of brokers. Yep. And here we are, we're a broker, we're a logistics company, but we're also a trucking company. So we understand how to treat drivers. Yep. And when you have the type of freight we have, it's not hard to find that outside capacity to haul it. Yep. Because what he was referencing was at his old company, he would get handed off to a broker. The broker would, not give him all the information on the load, because it went from being, it was only supposed to be one picks, it turned into 2 or 3 picks, or it was only supposed to be 2 drops, it turned into 5 stops, and he felt like the broker,
rate doesn't change, the rate stays the same.
Yeah, for the driver, I mean, he's now got a worse load, and he felt like he's being deceived actually, and we just don't do that here. I mean, we deal direct with customers. That information goes direct to you over the Qualcomm. There's just a lot of things. Like I said, there are some things, some friction points, and some things that can rub a driver the wrong way in trucking, not just at JCT, but trucking in general. And I get that because I've driven and I get out there on the road and I know what it's like. But when you look at the majority of the things that we have set up here, we have long-term established accounts that treat us well, that value our incumbency, they value our brand, they value our drivers. Do they treat every single driver the way that they should? No, not always, but for the majority of the time they do. And if we do have a problem, guess what? When we call a customer, they know, hey, it's JCT calling with an issue. It's not some broker that they don't know of or some guy, or it's an account that we've never hauled a load for. There's redundancy, there's repetitiveness there. And when you get that repetitiveness and you get that relationship around that, then you should be able to solve issues and set up better terms for the drivers. And honestly, I mean, that's what it's all about. You guys, we're your business, we're your sales and marketing, we're your operations team, we're your business development team. We reconcile payroll and trip settlements and all that. So we're representing you, the driver. You're out there representing us on the road and at the shipper and the receiver locations. We're representing you here internally with the customers and with different stakeholders. So we, hold us just like we hold you to a certain level and of expectation. Hold us to that level as well. And I promise you that we're trying to meet that. And we must be doing it pretty well because we get recognized by our customers. We've got so many great drivers that have been here a long time, and now we're even seeing an influx of new drivers. We've picked up some staff truck count. We've got momentum. We're coming into the summer where we're going to have record miles, record number of staff vehicles. So it's a good time to be here at JCT and all the things, the work we've done over the years. And as Jake said, through the most volatile cycles in the industry that I've ever seen in the 30 plus years I've been doing this. And we have not only survived those, we've thrived during that time, and we're going to continue to.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, there's no better note to send it out on than that point right there. So we appreciate you guys. Thank you for filling out the surveys, giving us all that feedback. And I'm actually going to be chopping some up today, and we're going to be making some calls on some other issues that we saw out there. But no, we appreciate all that work that you do out there, getting us that feedback so we can make JCT even better.
Yeah, and keep that information coming. I promise you, we're looking at that. We're looking at your responses. We're being proactive and responding to people. If you're not getting a response or you sent something in that you don't feel like was addressed, send it back in, move it up the chain. I want to see it. I want to hear about it. I want to do everything I can to try to fix it. And last but not least, look, be safe. I care about you guys. We love you guys, you and your family out there. And we want to do everything we can to help you be successful and be taken care of out on the road. So don't be afraid to lean on us and ask for us when we can help you.
Well, thank you very much, everybody. Be safe, as Danny said, and we'll talk to you soon.